Hello guys, and I feel the need to react. After the US strikes on Iran, I see that a lot of people are terrified that Trump has just begun the Third World War. There are lots of memes that I laugh at. For example, Trump talking to Trump the way he spoke to Zelensky, like you're gambling with the World War III. But with all my disrespect and my attitude towards Donald Trump, if there is one person to blame for the beginning of the Third World War, it is definitely not Trump. It is Putin. It all began in 2022 when Putin broke all the international laws and agreements that helped our planet survive for the last couple of decades. And as a Ukrainian, I am genuinely surprised why 100 drones flying in the Middle East is something that everyone is following, and hundreds of drones flying in Kyiv for 4 years already is just like no sensational, that's okay. And as Trump keeps saying, I hope both sides won't escalate. Like, Putin will keep destroying our houses and we will keep accepting that, or what? And I have made a list of these things that before the beginning of the US operation in Iran clearly identified that the Third World War is actually on. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia and the potential end of the Third World War inspired by Putin's regime, subscribe, we discuss all of that on the channel. I cannot be objective. I understand that I'm subjective as a Ukrainian, but unfortunately there are too many facts that prove I am right. Well, back in 2008, Putin violated international law and invaded Georgia. Escalation management was chosen by the West as the best strategy. It failed, and in 2014, Putin attacked Ukraine, annexed Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk regions. Escalation management was chosen, and it failed because in 2022, the full-scale invasion began. Unfortunately for the escalation managers, Ukraine turned out to be a strong country and disagreed to die out under Putin's boots. And we turned out to be quite effective in defeating this evil, and right now perhaps is the only country in the world, despite all the circumstances, that fights according to the rules of war. Together with me, you have witnessed, unfortunately, a lot of Russia's war crimes. Many of you remember what they did in Bucha, Irpin. They destroyed a beautiful, very beautiful city of Mariupol, and we literally observed how they dropped bombs on the shelters where children and elderly people were hiding. Then I'm sure you remember the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam that led to the destruction of a lot of natural habitats. A lot of people literally drowned in their homes. They were not able to evacuate, and that led to tremendous ecological problems. Then every week Putin speaks about Oreshnik. At least once he targeted Oreshnik on Dnipro. And they also want to, grow the production of these missiles, thus threatening more and more of the European countries. These are just the things that are on the surface. I don't need to look deep. Then extremely undermined events like Russian occupation of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and their attacks on Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Chernobyl is a great disaster in life of every Ukrainian. It's extremely painful. That alone could lead to lots of, traumatized generations. And now Russians keep targeting this facility. And just recently there was a case when a drone partially damaged this protective shelter above the fourth reactor. So right now, literally one nuclear power plant without the proper maintenance under the control of the Russian terrorists, and another one targeted by their drones. And at the very beginning of the invasion, they actually wanted to occupy these territories. Also, there are thousands of North Korean soldiers in Ukraine on the front lines. We have captured some of them. We have videos of that. Putin does not hide that, and Kim Jong-un does not hide them, that they send thousands of North Korean soldiers to Europe to kill us. Isn't that a sign of the World War, even before the US struck nuclear facilities in Iran? Subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine and to stand strong and united against this very global and very united evil too. Right now, we also know that a lot of North Korean people are traveling to Russia to work on the factories of Shahed drones. And Shahed drones are the technologies developed in Iran, which Iran shared with Russia for perhaps the Russian assistance with nuclear weapons. So, why wasn't that World War when North Korean soldiers arrived to the center of Europe to help Putin apply this scorched earth policy to the Ukrainian territories? Why wasn't that the said World War? Then thousands of Ukrainian children stolen. Russian war criminals confirmed they did that. Recently, it was extremely awful when they offered to exchange innocent, stolen Ukrainian children for their prisoners of war, for their war criminals. That is a kind of exchange impossible in any humane society, to equate Ukrainian children with their war criminals and to offer such an exchange. They don't deny the fact they steal Ukrainian children, thousands of them. Also, we experience these daily attacks on our cities while we are sleeping. I have already told you, I live in the city that is considered semi-safe, and I close my windows because since Trump is in the office, drones are too often here. Because Putin knows he has green light, they name this terror period the process of negotiations. And they ask Ukraine not to escalate. How can Ukraine escalate, defend itself too effectively? At the beginning of this war, we laughed at memes like, let's find a compromise. Putin wants to kill off all of Ukraine. Ukrainians want to survive, so let's find a compromise, 50-50. This is a very dark humor, but that's the way that many leaders choose to treat Ukraine right now. I know it's not fashionable to speak about the problems of Europe, but literally Europe is on fire. Ukraine is the largest country in Europe bordering with the European Union. And there are numerous cases when Russian missiles, Russian drones crossed your borders of your NATO countries. There is evidence, not just from Ukrainian intelligence if you don't trust us, but you should, but of the German, of the British intelligence that Putin is preparing attacks on NATO countries. Why wasn't that the start of the said World War? Why is it just US strikes on Iran? Why do you always wait for this World War to start somewhere far away and you don't believe that all the crimes that I have enumerated, and this is just a small percent, is not enough to cause this domino effect of wars and conflicts? Putin is very interested in more wars and more conflicts everywhere so that he can keep erasing my country, and other evil regimes will get more and more of what they want. Because of the escalation management that you have chosen, and I don't mean you, because you are strong, smart people who choose this inconvenience of truth, and that's why you're watching my video. And oh my God, I'm very grateful that I have you in my life, that Ukraine has you, and your countries have you, because you can decide something important, you can change something important. But as a Ukrainian, I feel very bad. This week was very bad. Putin chose this tactics of terror. Trump gave him green light. They keep saying it's the negotiations process, and literally every day they send hundreds of drones. Something that happened during a week in the Middle East happens like every night for almost 4 years here. So don't underestimate the size and the consequences of this war. And today, Kyiv was attacked, 7 people killed, 11-year-old girl, a young couple, like sleeping in their beds. Everybody knows these are civilians. Everybody knows this is not war. This is pure terrorist act, just as 9/11. But that continue for almost 4 years already. And what is the tendency during this week? Macron did not say anything. Starmer did not say anything. Von der Leyen did not say anything. Merz did not say anything. And in Kyiv alone, perhaps 30 people were killed by Russia. In Kyiv, it's not a frontline city. They do it with drones targeting sleeping people at night. Just 1 week and no reaction. More than like 50 missiles, more hundreds and hundreds of drones during 1 week and no messages. I'm not even saying about actions. We see, as President Zelensky says, a very strong coalition of the killers and no coalition of the willing. And I'm just like very disappointed. But with all that together, please understand, it's not Trump to blame. It's not Zelensky to blame. It's Putin. Because first, Putin demonstrated the weakness of NATO. He exposed the weakness of the democratic countries in contrast to the authoritarian. China supports Russia in everything they do. North Korean soldiers, boots on the ground. Do we see a response like that from the side of our partners? No. It's condemnations, fear, and what? No sanctions because oil prices can get up. So I'm sorry, you will have to pay plus 10 euros a year, and you don't want it. You prefer like 30 people killed in Kyiv because prices may go up. Guys, such decisions by our politicians cannot be justified. And it's not the direction in which you want this world to move. I guarantee you that if your countries need defense and protection, Ukraine will do that. We are very real. We are very honest. And dignity is not the word for us. And right now is a very decisive moment. I know many deny the fact that the world war has started in 2022. I personally believe it has. It does not begin, like in a movie, and today is the day when the Third World War started. No. They coined the term after it's finished already. It's a hybrid war. It doesn't have to look like the Second World War front lines. But Russia is to blame because North Korea supplies them with everything, and there are North Korean soldiers on the European ground. Can you imagine something similar in the 90s? What would be the response for just this one move? Or for the attack on Chernobyl nuclear power plant? How weak they have become, our so-called leaders, and I don't mean Zelensky here. That was an inclusive we of the democratic world. And sometimes I feel that these weak leaders are angry that Ukraine is so good at defending itself, that we did not collapse back in 2022 so that you could bury us and forget about us and think that you prevented the Third World War. No. Because witnessing this weakness, Putin knows he can continue. And that is why he keeps inviting more thousands of North Korean soldiers. That is why he will resupply Iran with nuclear weapons. How come you don't understand that by destroying something in Iran, you do not achieve much if Putin or Medvedev or all the Russian, war machine can resupply them tomorrow? You have to destroy the heart of the evil. the country responsible for the start of the Third World War. And that is Russia. That is Russia. Please let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you fear the World War? Do you think it has already started? And do you still remember some of the Russian war crimes against Ukraine? Because sometimes I feel you've accepted that. I don't mean you, once again. I don't mean you. I feel like the countries, the governments have accepted that as a new normal for Ukraine. But once again, unpunished evil grows. That is not a proverb. That is my Ukrainian experience. The experience of the Ukrainian who was advised by the Nobel Prize winner Obama not to escalate with Crimea. And Putin reads the phrase not escalate as come on, do whatever you want, that's your zone of influence, just as Molotov-Ribbentrop. But you know, even that pact of Molotov-Ribbentrop that Soviets signed with Nazis finally did not bring them to the success. Ukraine is a strong country. We stand for ourselves. But believe me, this is a very decisive moment in the modern history. And we need to defeat the evil. And you know, the center is in the Kremlin. Share these videos if you share my opinion, and also follow me on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, Discord. Check the merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine, and all the links you will find in the description of this video. Thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, helping me film. And believe more, I think we need each other, and I'm so grateful that we have our community. Slava Ukraini!